Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Hail to Michigan podcast. I'm your host, Ronnie Harder, and I am joined by my two gracious co-hosts, Contown and Matt. Contown, how are you, my friend?
Doing great. 1-0. Got back to the big house for the first time in 2 years, and now we're on to Washington.
How was that feeling being at the game on Saturday?
It was great, man. It was weird, exciting. Yeah, first time being in that size crowd in a long time, but you kind of get all the sensory things coming back to you and all the game day sounds and sights that you missed. It's like it was really special.
Matt, how are you?
Doing good. Wrapping up long holiday weekend, college football pretty much all weekend long. Found myself watching some really good games and also some really bad games. So that's the joy of it being back. You're invested in pretty much every game all weekend long.
Yeah, I spent all of Saturday just watching football, and it was such a great feeling. Watched the game last night too, which was absolutely awesome to watch. I wasn't expecting it to be a great game, and Florida State Notre Dame gave us such a great matchup. It was good to see Mackenzie Milton come in and do his thing after such a terrible leg injury a couple years back. So I don't know, college football's back, and I couldn't be any happier. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this Michigan and Western Michigan matchup that we had on Saturday. Michigan won 47-14. Great games from Cade McNamara at quarterback. Blake Quorum had a breakout game at running back. Hassan Haskins had a great game. You know, we saw a lot of good things on defense. Daxton Hill, Aiden Hutchinson, two usual suspects had some really great games. Unfortunately, we had probably one of our best, if not our best player on offense, Ronnie Bell, go down with a season-ending knee injury, which hurts. But, you know, next man up for Michigan. Hopefully that's Dalen Baldwin or A.J. Henning, Roman Wilson, somebody. Michigan has depth and talent there at wide receiver, so it'll be interesting to see who steps up. But Content, I'm going to start with you for the positives that you saw during this game and what you saw on a rewatch.
Yeah, so I think this was one of Gaddis's offensive coordinator Josh Gaddis's better called games, I would say. Maybe the one drive where we punted in the first half, I didn't love the 3-play sequence on that series, but other than that, I thought it was we saw some creative stuff. We saw, not too exotic of looks, but I don't think it was a vanilla game plan. He kind of seemed to have all of all options on the table. We attacked the edges with the reverse game, ran a ton of inside zone, split zone, a couple more gap scheme runs. We mixed it up on the ground.
The vertical routes were amazing
really nice
to see.
Vertical routes, nice 3-by-1 formations. I mean, I thought it was a really well called game, and they did what they wanted. They hit that 300-yard rushing mark we talked about last week. I thought from a schematic standpoint, it was a really good game plan. And I think the guys that were getting a lot of talk this offseason backed up that talk. Cade was super efficient. I think he missed maybe one or two big plays that were on the table, but he didn't miss them with the interception. He missed them with a check down, which, that's what they like about Cade, right? If he's going to miss, it's going to be on the conservative side.
Right.
Blake Quorum looked great. Stuber and Bastardas really stood out. Zinter moved people when he played. Wide receiver blocking was phenomenal. I mean, it was not a lot of negatives on the offense.
Yeah, I was thoroughly impressed. We're talking about a veteran group, especially on the D line for Western Michigan. They've actually got some pretty nice players on the D line, and the offensive line really stood their ground. Matt, I want to ask you, who are some players on that offensive line that stood out to you during Saturday's game?
Yeah, Connor mentioned a little bit, but and Harbaugh said it today in the press conference. I thought Bastardas was excellent, maybe his best game.
By far his best game ever.
Yeah, as a starter. I thought he seemed to be getting guys in the right spots, making the checks, and making the blocks, more importantly. I noticed Stuber. I thought he stood out. First rewatch, I really focused on the defense. So offense was more just an overview. I tend to kind of focus on the offensive line while watching, but Stuber stood out in that look. I thought Trevor Keegan looked really good in the run game. I noticed him a little bit on the negative side in the pass game. Be interesting to see, like when places like MGO Blog and Pro Football Focus, I know already has their grades out, but what they thought of Keegan's performance. But I thought
what side was Ali Fayyad on? Was he on Hayes' side or was he on Stuber's side?
I thought it was normally on Stuber's side, but I think it
Stuber's
depended
side?
on our formation.
I didn't hear his name too much during the game. I heard it a couple times on a couple tackles, but I didn't hear his name too much, which is obviously a great thing.
Absolutely.
Who was Matt? Did Keegan get Ralph Howley a lot?
That's the one time that's sticking out to me that I remember. It was Holly that was
okay.
And he didn't actually get a sack or anything, but he pushed him back, pretty well. Got him. It just seemed like he was off balance. I thought it was interesting the use of the extra linemen and extra, I'll say quasi linemen with Huntingford.
Mm-hmm.
Huntingford played a lot of snaps.
Those were some interesting sets whenever he came on the field.
Well, yeah, especially the sets where they brought Trente Jones as well. I mean, you really have it's 6.5, 7 linemen, although one's disguised as a tight end.
That's the Harbaugh influence right there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Bringing in an extra lineman and then a tight end that used to be a lineman. That was some Harbaugh right there.
I really like that though. I mean, that's kind of like a creative thing that you see Wisconsin do, and then like create some extra gaps on the line. In different ways.
Not to mention Trente Jones is really athletic. Honingford, he dropped a ton of weight to move to tight end, and he's really flexible and is able to move really well laterally now. So I think it gives you a lot of options when you're in the run game with guys like Quorum and Haskins to be able to have blockers like that who are super athletic.
And they actually
some really good stuff.
They actually set Honingford out on a couple of routes. I did notice that, and I don't think last year when he came in as a 6-0 lineman.
He was mainly just a blocker last year.
Right. So yeah, I think that. I mean, we saw Minnesota do that quite a bit on Thursday night.
Yep.
Bringing in extra guys like that, as Contown said. That adds extra gaps, lets them do a few more creative things, get a little bit more of a push up front. The run game in general did some pretty neat things. They had a speed and space 101 play, I think, midway through the first. I don't remember the exact time slot, but they ran a jet motion, and that pulled a guy completely out where Quorum ran right past the guy running the wrong direction. Like that guy would have been right there to make the tackle, and he went flying with the jet motion.
Yeah.
Just some good stuff to see there that used in the run game, as we discussed preseason.
So we talk about the run game, and we saw Blake Quorum. Speaking of him, he had an amazing game. You could just tell there's just a different gear whenever he has the ball in his hands. Just the elite burst that he has coming out of the backfield. Con, talk about Blake Quorum and what you saw from him on Saturday.
Yeah, I thought obviously we saw Blake, the ability to change the game in kind of 3 phases if you count catching the ball out of the backfield and special teams as well. He had the great kick return that unfortunately we only got 3 on, but he
got tackled by the kicker, man. That was terrible.
Yeah, I know. It was I think he was running out of gas. I don't know if he had a hurdle in him or
I'm sure he was tired.
But
he didn't do so many different things.
But he's just got that gear that like a playing gear. I mean, we know we've got many guys that have great testing numbers, great 100-meter numbers, but you talk about guys who still have it when they put all the equipment on, and he's one of them. And he doesn't slow down. He make you miss in a phone booth. He made a Western safety or linebacker, but on one of his, I think on his touchdown run, look absolutely silly in the hole, in the trenches when you've got all the bodies still around you. He still can make you miss. So he's just a really special talent. I think if I had one critique of Quorum, and I guess this is kind of nitpicking because he had a great game. It's very like detailed things that he can continue to work on. We talk about how high his top end speed is, but I think he really is kind of stuck on that high gear a lot of the time. And, sometimes the play really asks or requires the running back to be a little more patient and start slow until the blocking is set up. So one play that stood out to me was, I think it was on the drive the opening drive that we ended up scoring on, but in the red zone, we ran counter Trey, which is supposed to hit backside of the play. You've got the front side guard and front side tight end and Eric all pulling to the backside. And, the kick out blocks are your lead blockers and supposed to hit to the backside end of the line. It's kind of basic counterplay that most teams run, most gap scheme blocking teams run. And Quorum took the handoff and ran straight up right off
straight up the middle.
But yeah,
I'm looking at it right now. I'm kind of rewatching to kind of get a point of reference on some of the plays that you guys are talking about. I think it's a 2nd and 8 play at the 25-yard line. Eric comes across the middle, great block.
Yep.
And
we had it blocked perfectly.
Perfect. Yeah.
And he just runs right in the number 27.
It's an easy first down if he follows the play. I think he ended up getting like 3 yards or something. But I got to see a couple clips of the spring game, and I don't know if this is something we shouldn't say on the air, but the same thing happened in the spring game. They ran counter Trey, and Quorum did the same thing. So I think just understanding when, and this is kind of a veteran thing, really, he's in his 2nd year and his first year was 2020 COVID year, right? So understanding when to not be at your top gear immediately and which runs require a little patience and setup.
Yeah, let's quickly jump over to the passing game. There wasn't much on that end. Cade went 9 for 11, 156 yards, I think, with 2 touchdowns. He just looked absolutely amazing. JJ came in. He made a couple really nice throws, a couple throws where it was just like, he's very young. He needs to improve on that kind of stuff. But overall, I just thought everything looked great in the passing game as well. I love the route concepts. I loved how the wide receivers looked. Yeah, obviously, Bell was playing a great game until that unfortunate injury. Cornelius, I think, made 1 catch the entire game, but that catch was very, very nice. I loved it. Caught it with his hands on the little comeback route. Kind of looked a lot like Nico Collins on that catch. Mm-hmm. Matt, can kind of go over what you saw from the passing game.
Yeah, unfortunately, with the plan being kind of that smash mouth style with how much we ran the ball, you don't get to see a ton in the pass game. I thought Cade was crisp. I think that's kind of the way to describe him. I don't think it was anything too flashy. He didn't make, he avoided the big mistake, which is always good. He did hit a deep ball to Ronnie before Ronnie got hurt. One thing I'll definitely be watching moving forward is after Ronnie got hurt and we started rotating in Roman Wilson and AJ Henning and then eventually Baldwin. Once we started rotating those guys in a little bit more, it seemed like we got even more reliant on the run game. So seeing those guys progress as still very young players will be interesting moving forward. I thought, as you said, JJ was pretty good coming in. He hit that throw over the middle. Everyone's talking about the highlight throw, but that throw over the middle was a
Henning.
Yeah, was a rope.
Was it the Henning or Samer still?
I thought he hit.
It was Henning. It was Henning. It was Henning right up the middle because I was like, oh, yeah, there goes the Illinois connection. So
yeah, okay. Yeah, because he put it.
Excellent throw. God, he stepped up in the pocket and
that was a rope.
Threw a freaking bullet between 2 defenders.
Yeah. So I thought he looked good. Eric All kind of. One thing we mentioned in the preview of the season was him, coming through on some of the hype, and I thought he looked. I thought he looked athletic. Major catches that came to him.
Almost like an extra gear.
Yeah. For a guy that
in
big,
this first game,
he runs so well.
Yeah,
he does, man. It's just so smooth. If he ever figures out that catching problem in game, he could be a very good prospect in the NFL because he's the prototypical current tight end in today's NFL. He's like that Evan Ingram type.
Yeah, I thought he
it,
looked really, really athletic and was doing some hand catching as well.
Yeah.
Wasn't just letting everything get to his body, which was a little bit of a problem last year that added to some of the drops.
Yeah, I thought it was huge that he converted the first down on that slant on third down.
Yep.
Just to see him catch a ball, hit a defender.
Was it on the first drive?
Yep, first drive. It was the first down in the game, I'm pretty sure.
They went 5 wide.
Yep.
What'd you guys think of the jet sweeps that Henning and Roman Wilson had? The touchdown that Henning had. I thought Roman Wilson could score a touchdown on his. He cut inside instead of cutting outside. I think he had a wide open space.
I thought they were both designed really well. I thought the Henning one I'm kind of high up in the end zone, which is like, if you're a film junkie, I kind of get the all 22
yeah, right,
live version of the football games, which is great. But I could tell that the Henning one was not the run action, not the handoff action to Quorum. I think that was a little awkward on the fake. Sure, the front seven of Western couldn't tell in the moment, but maybe that's something the coaches want to tighten up a little bit. But obviously, it was incredibly successful. I mean, Henning is a guy that we all talked about preseason about. We just got to get the ball in his hands a little more. He's kind of like Quorum. I think he's got a gear with the pads on that a lot of people don't have. So I was just really happy with the way they schemed up to get those to the ball.
Mike Sanders still threw a great block on that play.
Yeah.
And he also did
really great blocks
on Quorum's kick return. If you are one of those fans that complains about Mike Sanders still playing and you're like, why does this guy play? He doesn't, his stats aren't very good. Go watch the AJ Henning touchdown and the Blake Quorum kick return. And if you still think he shouldn't be playing, you are an idiot.
I think he wiped out a guy on Quorum's touchdown too.
He did.
Yeah.
And on the kick return, he wiped out a guy and then turned on the jets to catch Quorum and blocked another guy. Like that guy, I wrote in my notes in the rewatch, like Mike Sanders still could go the whole season without catching a pass, and I would still be very happy with him being on the field because of what he brings to the offense. I mean, when you think of receivers, you don't always think of blocking, but that's not the first thing that comes to mind, certainly. But having a guy like that, especially when you want to run the ball a lot, is invaluable. So shout out to Mike Sanders still. Great game.
On that Henning play, Philly Yaga threw a great block too as a swing guard.
That was Vistardis.
Was it Vistardis?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if it was 66 or 68. Let me see. That would be 68. Yeah, you're right. Vistardis. Yeah, that was a great block.
It was. He kind of like wrapped. It was an interesting play design. He kind of wrapped around. He looked like he was going to make a full pull, and then he kind of curled it in. So I wonder if that was his assignment, just look back inside to catch somebody there.
Yeah.
But he threw a great block there.
All right, so now for the defensive side of the ball.
If I could get one more thing on offense. We talked about all, and we talked about the run game a little bit. I thought the motioning all into the split zone plays was great. I thought that was a highly effective way to get him involved. He's already super, high effort, enthusiastic blocker, and it kind of took advantage of the defense respecting his athleticism when he split out to motion him into the split zone runs. I thought that was great.
So on the defense now, we saw some really great performances from the usual guys like Dax Hill, Aiden Hutchinson. We also saw some really good performances from guys on the D-line like Mozzie Smith. I thought Donovan Jeter actually played a pretty good game. I know some people really didn't think that he did. I really liked what I saw from R.J. Moulton in his first game. I thought Nikai Hill-Green had some really good moments, and then had some really, big rookie mistakes that can be easily improved on. Con, I'm going to start with you. What did you see on the defensive side of the ball that you really liked?
Aiden and Dax living up to the hype. I thought they both looked like certainly all conference level players, but potential All-Americans. They were as advertised, made a ton of plays. I had nothing negative to say about either one of them. I thought they both had great games.
My favorite Dax play was when the Western Michigan running back went to the flat and Dax just came flying in for the tackle on third down.
Yep.
It was like a 3rd and 3. It was amazing.
Yeah, he was great. Along the front, I thought the interior D-line was kind of up and down. They were fine overall. I thought there were moments where they got caved. There were moments where you saw why people were talking about Mazzie Smith so much in the offseason. There were moments where Jeter got a ton of push. I thought Mazzie and Jeter were probably ahead of the rest of the pack in terms of the guys that played significant snaps. But, the whole D-line was up and down. I thought they had good moments, and then they had moments where they got. Again, Western Michigan, very experienced offensive line, one of the better lines in the MAC. So hopefully it turns out to be a great unit that they faced.
Matt, what are some of the bad things that you saw on defense?
On defense, I think it's important to keep in perspective the context of this game. We mentioned in the preview that this is was supposed to be a very strong unit on offense. So considering that and considering, the first drive was a 75-yard drive, I thought the defense really shut it down late in the, from that point on the first half. I thought the pass defense was okay. I thought with maybe better receivers, maybe a better mix of quarterback receiver play, I thought they could have got Michigan a few more times than what they did. They had the one on Jamon on the first drive that was just kind of, I thought Jamon was in pretty good position and wasn't very lucky with how the throw kind of got him off balance. Yeah, it was weird. But I do think they had a few more opportunities. I think Vincent Gray got burnt on one. It was an overthrow. I can't remember if it was Gray or Green, but got burnt on one that was an underthrow that they ended up breaking up.
It was Gray, wasn't it? The pass interference.
Yeah,
it was Gray.
It was they called a face mask, didn't they? And then they waved it off.
That's what it was. Yeah. You're right.
It looked like Gray.
I knew they waved it off. I couldn't remember if it was pass interference or face mask, and it was a face mask.
Yes,
it was a face mask, but it's a makeup call for the PI that they called on Michigan for Ronnie Bell. So,
so a lot of people were upset with Ross. I rewatched with a pretty heavy focus on the defense.
I was upset with Ross too. Then rewatch, it was like he actually wasn't that bad.
I didn't see that.
He was great rushing the passer.
There was one seam route that they hit that I think fans may have thought that they were in man and that the guy just kind of got inside Ross and he was trailing them, which is what happened. But I'm pretty sure they were in cover 2. So it'd be interesting to see like what the coaches had to say about that play. I didn't feel like that was really Ross's responsibility. Other than that, I mean, they leaked a few yards. I think that's how Harbaugh termed it as well. They leaked a few yards through the middle late in the game. And, if Michigan's not up 2-3 scores on a team, that is still a concern. I'm not completely sold on the group. One thing early in the season that you always need to be kind of leery of is, say a position like defensive tackle for Michigan. They played a bunch of 4-2-5 and they played, Smith, Jeter, Hinton, Whitley played a little bit late in the game. They played Juice. They played Jenkins. So one thing that I always watch is, if you've got a big rotation like that, do you have a bunch of guys that you really trust, or are you not sure who's any good? So I think that's something to watch moving forward. And they'll get some of that rotation narrowed down to get the guys that are giving them the best snaps, the most snaps moving forward. But other than that, I mean, pretty good offense or projected to be a pretty good offense that they held to 14 points. I don't think you can be too upset there.
Yeah, I agree. I think.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if I had to pick two guys that I think Michigan really needs to continue to improve in the front seven, I thought Hinton was up and down, and he did have some good plays, but maybe had slightly more negative plays than good plays this week. And one thing that just really stood out to me was his alignment. He's like a full yard and a half off the football at the snap a lot. And there were times where he was even with whoever the other defensive tackle was on the play, and they were both, significantly off the ball. But there were times where, he'd be playing with Mazzy and his helmet was at Mazzy's shoulder pads. And I just that's kind of a really basic football awareness thing. And, a guy with his athleticism and his size, don't put yourself at a disadvantage. Don't give a MAC offensive line the advantage of that kind of separation off the line of scrimmage. And then I thought Ojabo looked like he was very effective in pass rush. I think he lost the edge on a handful of runs and allowed the running back to get outside of him.
He
didn't cost us too much.
Too well. Him or Harrell. Harrell didn't set the edge too well either when he was in the game.
And Ojabo's got that really lanky build. He's not as thick as Hutchinson is yet. So I think he especially needs to work because of that build on attacking half a man and staying square to the line of scrimmage. He kind of got turned upfield a little bit and got, too kind of like head up or centered on the end man on the line of scrimmage. So that's a technique thing. And I think that's something a good habit he has to build with more experience, more playing time.
So before we wrap up this episode, I wanted to go over 2 players on defense and 2 players on offense to give letter grades to. So I'm going to start with Mike Morris. Matt, what grade would you give Morris for his performance?
I was actually texting somebody today about Morris specifically. In terms of a letter grade, I'd say in the B plus range. He really popped to me.
He did. He needs more playing time.
I thought in some of the highlight videos, like preseason and stuff in camp, he popped on those too. He looked physically like a beast. Yeah. But he was also in a lot of those highlights, like not getting blocked or, making a big play, but it's something the offense may have screwed up. But I thought it translated over to Saturday. I'd like to see a little bit more of him. I'm not real sure where he fits. It looked like in the 5-1-5, he played kind of that end spot with an edge outside of him. Mm-hmm. And then when they went the 4-2-5 look, he played the tackle spot with an edge outside of him. So, yeah, getting him some more reps. I think both him and Juice really, we talked preseason, those guys fit this scheme pretty well. And if he's clearly behind Ojabo and or Hutchinson, at the true edge spot, getting him into those snaps a little bit more, I think would be beneficial to him. So I was impressed with what I saw from Mike Morris.
I have it in my note. Yeah, I'd agree. I have it in my notes that Michigan, when RD tackles were not Morris and Juice, we really didn't have interior pass rush. But when we had those two in the nickel, we were getting, not getting home, but we were getting, collapsing more of the pocket and making Ella be more uncomfortable when those two were in the game. So I agree. I think get Morris on the field more. He looks like he could even continue to add 5 or 10 pounds and kind of just commit to being an interior guy, like Matt said, playing the end spot in the 5-1-5 with either Hutchinson or Ojabo outside of him, or being one of the 2 interior guys when we're in the nickel. But thought he was good. I thought clearly gives you the best interior pass rush of anyone we have right now.
Let's go with Nakai Hillgreen.
I'd say if this is really his first start, I think he was probably again B plus. He looks like he plays with a ton of effort, ton of energy, but needs to play a little more controlled. I think he overran Jefferson one and set up on one play and set up an easy cutback that I think Jefferson ended up getting, 7+ yards on, maybe a first down. So just play a little more controlled, and that'll come with experience. But clearly a downhill, high effort, high intensity guy that I think is going to be a good player.
Yeah, I think controlled is a good word to use there, because I really thought he was flying around and sometimes to his detriment. He made some hits, and I think back to his high school career, and I remember watching. He was in Philadelphia before he went to St. Francis, and his stuff in Philadelphia, he just looked like an athletic freak, and I thought that translated over to the game on Saturday. I thought he looked really good. He's going to continue to get better with time, more comfort in the new scheme. But as far as debuts go, that was a pretty good one.
Yeah, I thought he looked really good too. Let's head over to offense. Ryan Hayes.
I thought Ryan had a solid game. I know Harbaugh shouted him out. I think he had a quiet game, which for a left tackle, and knowing that Western Michigan has a decent pass rush unit, that's what you want, right? It's kind of like a cornerback. You don't want to hear your name much during the game, and probably says he had a good game. So I thought Ryan was good.
Yeah, I felt the same way. Like I said, I haven't focused too much on the offensive line, individual performances, plus minuses, stuff like that. But I thought, from first look and then on rewatch, I thought he looked pretty good as well.
All right. Final player, Hassan Haskins.
Yeah, I thought Hassan looked exactly what we expected. His balance is elite. I mean, he's not
touchdown run where he
ran over
number 2.
He's not real fast. He's not real strong, but when he's fast enough and strong enough, and you combine that with his balance, I mean, everyone. Yes, yeah, I thought he was very good. Of course, people want to crown Quorum and McCarthy, both at running back and quarterback, respectively, which those guys played well too. But I was excellent on Saturday, and I expect that to continue. Runs hard, pretty good vision. I'd say A- game from him, and with room to grow still.
Yeah, I agree. I'd go A-. I love how he runs. He's great to pair with Quorum. It'd be interesting to see if they have anything planned, or the way the O-line continues to progress. If they decide they want to run more kind of 2-back stuff, more 20, 21 personnel, get him and Quorum on the field at the same time. But yeah, great vision, great balance, good vision, great power. First guy never brings him down. I thought it was noteworthy that they trust him enough to motion him out wide out of the backfield and run some of the 5-wide stuff with him out wide. Kind of lets you maybe catch the defense in a different personnel, a positive from Michigan's perspective personnel group that's maybe more geared to stop the downhill run game if you can bring one of those linebackers out wide with Haskins. So it's great stuff.
They did that with Quorum too. And I think moving forward that will be a big benefit with Donovan.
Yeah.
That's something that Donovan Edwards can really take advantage of. Get him. I don't remember too much under Gaddis of us doing that 5-wide look where the tight end and running back stay in the game, kind of dictating the personnel of the defense with the running back split out. Creates a huge advantage. Saquon Barkley, if you remember, against Michigan.
Yeah.
Everyone's mad at Glasgow, but Mike McCray as well. But that's good play calling. You get your star running back on a linebacker. It's
Glasgow was such a punching bag for Michigan fans when he was here. I don't get it.
He's still in the NFL. He's on the Colts. I mean, he's a good player.
He is.
He was a good player in college too.
Did everything you asked of him.
Yeah.
That's just like the Glasgow bloodlines. Do everything that you ask of them. They're just all solid players. Graham probably the best one, obviously, but all just really solid players.
I got to bounce, guys. I got 15 seconds until the draft starts.
Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks for tuning in. to this episode of the Hail to Michigan podcast. Be sure to check us out on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and be sure to look out for our preview of the Washington game coming up this week. And for that, everyone have a great night, and we'll see you soon.